Welcome to the JK Podcast. I'm Jim. This
Power
is
five. Okay, okay.
Yavo. He's dancing, has an intro. We're
Ah,
gonna, we're gonna make a gif of that. Uh, Unfortunately, we don't have his mom, his hot mom, to join us. But if you didn't check out last episode, definitely check out the last episode. We had his mom on, and hopefully she'll be on again. But yeah, we're back. There's lots that's been going on in the news. We're only in March of
hey,
25.
bro.
What was that?
See, if you're talking all about my mom and your mama jokes and stuff like that, it's all fun and games until I mail you a bag of shit, and then you're like, "Why is Yavo mailing me a bag of shit?"
Oh,
I'm like,
that's ain't
"Oh,
nothing
I
bad
don't know.
about your
It's a
mom.
mystery. It's a mystery."
But a lot has happened so far in the first, I guess, 60 something days of the year. Politics, world news, everything seems to be dominated by Donald Trump and everything that he's doing. So I know Yavo had a lot to say in some different conversations we had in the past few weeks. So I'm just going to turn it over to Yavo and let him open up the can of worms on our main topic for this podcast.
Oh, I'm super happy that what's called Canada has been talking a bunch of shit. Canada has been like, maybe we might have to go to war with America, and we're not going to be friends with America no more. And the first thing I thought was, well, like, when does Canada ever get rowdy? And even if they did get rowdy, is that like really Canada? That I don't think that's gonna go great for you.
Have you seen him play hockey?
Did you
They're
hear about
pretty
that?
rough in
Canada's been
hockey.
talking smack like they're going to go to blows with America. I'm like, I don't think that's going to go great for you guys. I mean, granted that a big reason that we have the Geneva Convention is because Canada used to treat that stuff as a checklist. So I mean, it's never a war crime if you're the winner. But even with all that said, if America wants to, if Canada wants to throw hands, I don't think it's going to go great for Canada.
Well, recently the U.S. went up against Canada in a hockey match on February 20th of 25, and the final score was Canada 3, USA 2. So they did win over Trump's American team.
Yeah, that's in hockey. Okay, that's kind of like their thing. That's, but I mean, like, war is kind of America's thing. Like, war is kind of the thing that America tends to be better at than anything else. And I mean, they might win at hockey. I don't think they're going to do so great at the war thing.
I mean, you got a good
Like,
point. We are,
have you seen the F-22? F-22 Raptor is just a monster in itself. Send three of those things to quiet Canada down.
we
It's just
are
funny
back to
that Canada was
back.
like, yeah, we're gonna
We might
talk
not
some
be good
shit.
at like World Cup and what is it, cricket and all these other globally recognized games, but we are back to back World War champions.
Oh, did you hear that all the communists on the internet are losing their mind about how they're trying to say that World War II was won because of the Russians? They're like, oh yeah, because all the communist fanboys were being like, yeah, America only won because the Russians were there. And the first thing I thought was like, guys, Russians, like, they lost the most amount of people, in the Allies out of all the other nations. Like, if you're playing Call of Duty right now, and you have that one player on the winning team that has like a kill to death ratio of like 80-1 or 80-2, it's like that's like that guy in the chat after the match being like, yeah, guys, we only won because of me. I'm like, no, that's not how this Call of Duty game works, bro. That's a weird thing to flex on, the fact that you had the most amount of losses.
Well, what really took the internet by storm was this meeting they had with President Zelensky from the Ukraine. He came over to the White House, and it's of course everyone's seen the clip where he's sitting on the one side there. You got Trump, and then you had the couch, and JD was right next to Trump there, and it was almost like a tag team. They were tag team, and then JD Vance, got into the mix, and they basically kicked him out the White House. There was some words exchanged, and it was a very uncomfortable. I mean, obviously, your Ukrainian president, he was in the hot seat, and it was very uncomfortable for him. But it was something else seeing a president just go into somebody and just keep calling them out on this and that. That was something to see. Nowadays, I can only imagine that today with TikTok and the internet, the media and YouTube shorts and the memes, if you flash forward 10, 15 years ago, that would have never been as televised or had the press there.
No,
You
that would have
know,
happened in the back room.
yeah, it would have happened in
Did
back
you
rooms.
did
We
you
would have
watch
seen
the
like a
whole?
news report of it, but we've never seen the actual exchange. So I think we're in a
Oh
time.
yeah, and did you watch the whole thing? Because it's more than like the whole press conference is like over an hour. It's like an hour plus long, and the
Mhm.
first 40 minutes of it, the first like 40 minutes, Zelensky's just over here talking some shit, and Trump is like quietly listening and letting this dude talk shit for like 40 minutes. But the only thing that made the internet was like the last exchange, and then it's like I was a little disappointed because everyone on the news is like, "Oh, Trump is a madman and running around." I'm like, this guy sat quietly for 40 minutes and let that dude run his mouth until they eventually, like called him on his shit and then threw him out the room. And
Mhm.
Zelensky's the dude who started the whole confrontation in the first place. Like in the first 40 minutes is Zelensky talking shit when he walked in, and I'm listening to this and I'm like, is this guy's goal to like start some shit to get thrown out so that he can go back to the EU and be like, rah, rah, rally against me because America's not helped me, and hopefully that Europe will like hook him up with stuff. Like if that was Zelensky's goal was to piss off the White House so he could get a better concession from the EU, then he totally made his goal. Which that's kind of like the I was watching. I'm like, I think this guy's just trying to start some shit. Like when he first walked in the room, that might have been his whole goal, but it was great TV at the very end where Vance was like, "Nah, dude, you being rude. Like we gotta put a stop to this.
Yeah.
You can't walk in here asking for a hookup and then talk some shit for 40 minutes and never say thank you one time."
Well, regardless of where people fall on the political spectrum of things, there's a couple of things that I think any tax-paying American that can understand is one thing is there's a lot of people that's hating on Elon Musk and the Doge for the Department of Government Efficiency for trying to cut like USAID and all these other departments are they're still talking about cutting the Department of Education and like trying to create efficiencies. And what I do admire is the attempt to cut all this, fraudulent to really stupid, ridiculous spending that we know about this all for years. Like every time there's a budget issue, there's always these congressmen and senators and representatives talking about this program that's to study mice sleeping habits or just ridiculous kind of stuff that we as Americans go,
Oh, to make
give
mice
me a grant, give me
trans,
100,000
make
to
mice
$1 million to
transgender
do some
was
stupid
one of the
study. So
mice transgender.
yeah, our
It's
nice
so funny.
transgender, right? So all of these, so I'm 110% behind cutting all these ridiculous grants and programs for stuff that does not benefit the taxpaying American citizen. I'm 110% behind that. I'm also behind gutting. When the last time Trump was in office, he talked about draining the swamp in DC. And this is finally the swamp draining that we were promised in his first term. And now he's back with vengeance. I'll be honest. I've worked with hundreds of civilians, both Department of Defense, Department of Army, federal civilians, and I'll be quite brutally honest. Maybe 1 to 2 out of 10 are worth their weight in salt. Now, on this other side of the thing, because people be quick, because I work as a defense contractor, a lot of folks say, oh, well, defense contractors are just overpaid sacks of shit. And trust me, we got a lot of sacks of shit on both sides of that fence, right? Whether you're a defense contractor or a government civilian, right? But here's the thing. You're right. Both sides needs to have all the swamp drained on both sides, right? Defense contracting charging like $50 for a screwdriver. I get it. There's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse and spending when it comes to government and these businesses that are just everybody out trying to get a quick buck. But with that being said, there's nothing worse than hearing about $100+ billion we've sent to Ukraine for their war effort against Russia. And in the heart of hearts, all American taxpayers know that $100+ billion did not go to actually doing Jack Diddley.
Oh
Maybe
no, they already lost half of it. They don't know
half
where
of
half the
it
money is.
can't
Like half
account
the
for
money, they
it.
have no idea.
Have no idea where half of it went. What would 500,
Government's so
what
good
would
at spending money.
$50 billion have done to help programs that are underfunded in the U.S.? So as a tax-paying citizen, I'm 100% on board with getting rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse in government, reducing, creating efficiency. So I'm on board with what Doge is doing. What I don't like about it is that they should be even, I know they're trying to do everything very transparent, but what I don't like about it is like what you said earlier about the White House, the media in the room with Zelensky. The whole story gets condensed down to whatever the narrative that whatever political leaning or affiliation of the news outlet is, or the websites, etc., are trying to put out in the world. So you get people getting all incensed. Like recently they had the Tesla supercharging station. A woman went and set it on fire, right? What good is in that in destroying property, publicly destroying property of chargers and things that are to help people with their vehicles? Are you really hurting Elon Musk? You're not. So those kind of folks in America that want to go destroy property and try to think they're sending a message to Elon Musk, those are idiots. So where are we going to drain the
You know, the
swamp
most
of our intellect in our country? Because we got a lot of dumbasses in America. And I'm not trying to say, and they're on both sides of the spectrum. So I'm gonna spread the hate equally. We got dumbass Republicans, we got dumbass Democrats, and we got a lot of people in the middle, undecideds, that are also dumbasses. We got dumbasses galore. So I do hope that we can reach a higher level of intelligence in our country to understand that some of this shit is bullshit. A grant to determine
so here's
transgender mice, bullshit. Get rid of it. If it's not benefiting the tax-paying citizen, get rid of these programs, get rid of these grants, trim the fat, and start funneling money to the things that truly matter. I believe that anyone that's
so
watching
things
this
on
right now, you got to ask yourself these questions. If it's
yeah,
not
you
creating
eat it.
jobs for American taxpayers, if it's not benefiting the
Cook,
American taxpayer, and if it's
cook.
not providing a better future via education or college or whatever for our children and our future, if it's not in those three things I just said there, then everything else is bullshit.
So one thing back to Europe and then going back to the States. Back to so Europe, they spent more money buying fuel from Russia than they gave to Ukrainian aid. So whenever you hear them talking about, like all their morals and shit, just remember these guys are giving more money to the bad guys than they are giving to the good guys. So they full of shit, just straight up. Like anything you hear come out their mouth about like, we have this moral, this no. If they're giving more money, buying more money and fuel from the bad guys, uh, than they are, because they can buy the same fuel from the states. They'd rather buy it from the bad guys. So they're full of shit as far as like Europe, on their high horse.
Oh, of
And then on
course.
the states, with cutting the money from actually helping the U.S. Taxpayer or helping the U.S. economy in general, it is pretty interesting that no matter how much money that Doge actually cuts, or because they don't even cut money, they make recommendations, and then and then the White House actually makes those cuts. But no matter how much money they cut, none of those things are the big things that are eating out of the U.S.'s debt. Because the two biggest things that's dragging the American economy down is our entitle programs through Social Security and Medicaid. And those entitlement programs, Trump has already said he's not going to touch. He doesn't want to touch them. But if those programs don't get reworked I think, what was the year people were projecting? It was like 2035, 2038. The U.S. won't be able to meet, like, it'll only be able to meet 80% of its obligations at that time. Like, mathematically, the money runs out. So even if Doge saves a bunch of money here on, maybe not making as many mice transgender and stuff, it's gobs of money that we should definitely not be spending on bullshit. Totally agree with all of that. But none of it, I mean, it's great for the story of the news, but none of it is actually fixing the real problem that is the cancer that's the Social Security and Medicare programs. And Americans want to have their Social Security, they want to have their Medicare, they also want to have cuts, but they don't want to have the cuts from the things that are the actual problem. So it's kind of like it makes great news, it makes great stories, and people can get on high, idealism and one way or the other with I hate Doge or I like Doge or whatever. But I mean, until the entitlement programs like Social Security and Medicare get like completely revamped, where we slash the crap out of those, we're still heading towards a cliff no matter what. Which is why in my lifetime I'm not ever planning to get Social Security.
Well,
I'm
there's a
I'm
lot of
planning to
problems
invest in
that
real
are wrapped
estate
up
and
in
have
it.
my shit on solar and well water.
Yeah, I agree that those
I'm gonna be self sufficient.
entitlement programs do need to be looked at, but here's the problem. They were made during a time where life expectancy was not like it is today. With all the advancements in technology, medical sciences, and sciences, we've extended life where, 20, 30 years ago, someone living past 95 was a real rare thing. I remember when I was a kid watching like the Today Show, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're saying happy birthday
Oh,
to
when it was,
the 110-year-olds, whoever," and they were like the world's oldest person. Of course, they would die in a few months, and then there'd be another world's oldest person, right? The
yeah,
problem
Social
is that
Security,
now
when it was
people are
made,
living
the
a
age range, when Social Security was created, it was only paying out to people who lived 2 years longer than the average life expectancy of America at the time, which meant
yes,
if you lived longer than Americans are supposed to live in the first place, well, 2 years past that, then we'll start paying you because statistically speaking, you're probably going to kick out in a year or two anyway.
yeah. But
So
now they're living
that was
25,
but it's a Ponzi
35.
scheme. Like Social Security is
Yeah.
an actual Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. So now Americans are living 20 to 60 years later than the retirement age. And so, yeah, that's caused a huge burden on that system. And like Musk has already said it, it's a system that can't be sustained, just like our deficit, our national debt can't be sustained. And he's right. There's a website, which I'll put in the link below. There's a website that shows all these numbers in like our debt clock, if you will, and how Doge is trying
Oh
to
yeah,
identify.
the
Uh,
Treasury Department has been like 2035. We will 2035 to 2038. America will only be able to meet 80% of its obligations, meaning it won't be able to meet all of its obligations. So that means like if you think in 2035, if we keep doing exactly what we're doing, you think you're getting your Social Security, Medicaid,
yeah.
mathematically you need to get out a calculator because that shit ain't happening.
I will
Like just,
propose
I
this.
mean, I
If
don't know.
if Elon and Doge can come up with a way in the next, 3.5 years or about before the end of this term, if
Oh, they only
Elon
got
and
2 years
Doge,
because then the midterms come up. They only
oh
got two
yes,
years to get all their shit straight. Because once midterms come up, if they lose either, if they lose any more votes, and they won't be able to control, both House and Senate.
yeah.
So he's basically got 2 years to get his shit done. If
So
Trump
in
doesn't
two
get
years,
everything done that he
if they
wants in
can
2 years,
create a pathway to
yeah.
erasing national debt, and this is a big Mount Everest, probably like a million Mount Everest is what I'm proposing here. But if Doge and Elon can come up with a way to come up with the plan to slash the spending and somehow, even if it's 50% reduction, but if they can come up with a plan to erase the national debt, I think he wins the Time Person of the Century, if in my opinion, not just Person of the Year, Person of the Century, if he can accomplish that, which no other person has really taken it on themselves to do it. And I'll say a couple things. Whether you love or hate Elon Musk, here's the thing: this dude doesn't have to do any of this shit. I mean, honestly,
Oh yeah, that's it. He's richest man in the world. He doesn't give a shit about
richest
your
man in
money.
the world, he could
He
literally
don't give
just
a shit.
say, fuck you all, go live on a private island in an undisclosed location on Earth, and just be like,
Yeah,
because he loves to have babies. He could be just sitting there with just supermodels having all kinds of babies, 100, 200, 300 kids. And that's all he does 24/7 is just keep pumping out more babies if that's what the fuck he wanted to do. But the fact that this man not only
yeah.
started one multi-billion dollar company, two or three, several multi-billion dollar companies, he still is taking the
Okay.
time to work with this administration
A little bit.
with his own time and energy while still running these other companies. And people like to talk trash about this guy. Like they talked about his recent couple of explosions on the Falcon rockets, etc. They want to dog him out about this or that. And I'm like, this
Which is
dude could literally
crazy
just
because it's
say,
like
okay,
if you don't
peace
like it, make
out.
your own
Fuck all
rocket,
you
bro.
guys.
Like, Elon Musk is literally on the bleeding edge of human capability, and it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 step forward. That's like human development. And every time there's 1 step back, people are like like shit talking. I'm like, bro, what have you done today to advance the human species? Because like I don't think it's as much. And this dude is literally taking shit from everybody on the internet and the news and shit out of the goodness of his heart. So love the guy or hate the guy, he's advancing your species way more than any of the people that are talking shit about him are. So
Well, not to say I'm anywhere near like Elon is in a whole new universe by himself, but just like, when I became an author, this is the closest that I could give my little bitty, small minded, perspective on this. when I first became an author, I was super proud of that achievement. Like, hey, I took an idea in my head, I created the words, I did all the work, and I made a book. And that book did win awards. It got recognized as help kids. It did wonderful things in the world. Not as big as what Elon's doing, but then yet people want to criticize me. Oh, this you never got signed up by Disney. Disney didn't want your option you series. And they like talk so much shit. And I'm like, where's your book?
Where you
Where did
going?
you
Yeah,
take an
exactly.
idea that ideas are like elbows and assholes. Everybody's got one, right? It's like, when did you ever do bet on yourself and try to take your dreams and make them in the world, right? Like recently, we did this crypto project, right? We did crypto assets and then we did digital dinars. And so many people be like, oh, Jim's trying to do this crypto thing. Well, guess what? Where's your crypto coin? Where's your 1 trillion of coins or your 100 billion of coins? I'm at least taking the shots, right? And the thing is I might not be like Elon. He's already got a successful SpaceX, Tesla. He
Okay,
sold
no one's
PayPal.
like Elon because he's able to do all of these projects, all of these companies, all of this advancement for the human civilization. And at the same time, I'm not sure how, but he's also able to be like one of the top players in the world at Diablo. Not sure how
Yeah,
he's like top player in Diablo and still has time to like advance the human species.
and make
Don't know how the fuck
babies.
that works.
Don't forget, he loves making babies.
I don't know. I don't know. Like I'm more impressed by the because I see kids, some of those Korean kids playing Diablo, and they're like some of the highest ranked players. They have all of their time invested in becoming like the top video game players for this video game. And then there's Elon just doing it on the side, like whooping all their ass. Like, how the fuck do you got
Well,
time
hold on.
to
How many
beat
kids do
all
you
of these
have,
Korean
Yavo?
kids?
How many kids do you have in your house right now?
I got two, and then on the weekends there's some
Yeah.
random other
So you got
children
two
show
kids
up
in your
to your
household.
friends to eat out of my fridge.
How hectic is it you try to keep up with just two kids in your household, like after school programs, school?
You see me throw my car keys 5 minutes ago? I'm trying to do this podcast right now. People going, Dad, I need the car keys. Dad, I need this. That I'm having a conversation with you right
Elon
now.
has
I
what,
haven't
like
been able to get
nine,
through
10
this without somebody
kids?
needs me.
Elon's approaching a dozen kids if he hasn't already passed that already. So you got two. Elon's got almost a dozen. Let's see, Elon number of kids. He has got 14. 14 kids. This dude's got 14 kids, man, and you got just two. And he does all these other things. So for anyone to
God bless
judge
him.
this man, if you're sitting there just judging from your
Maybe his
screen
kids
or
are
from your
playing on
internet
Diablo in his account.
keyboard, where's your billion
Maybe that's
dollar
what it is.
company? Where's your contribution to humanity other than working your 9 to 5? Maybe you got some kids of your own, and then your end of your life is just going to be a cement headstone, some cemetery somewhere on the planet. And after a few generations,
Oh man, cooked,
ain't no one
heated,
visiting that piece of cement in that
heated,
yard, that
man.
big gray green yard anymore. So maybe 2 generations, maybe your kids and the grandkids come visit you, sweep off the leaves off your headstone. But after about 2 generations, you're
Oh,
forgotten. Elon's
speaking of
companies
headstones,
and everything he's doing will last for generations to come. And he's got 14 kids. So no telling what they're going to do
speaking of
to extend the legacy of this man. And everybody wants to tear down this guy that's done so much for humanity when he could just, like I said earlier, he could just say, fuck you all,
we're
I'm
angry.
out, enjoy yourselves, and he can and just disappear from society. He could easily do that. I mean, I know I would. I mean, Yavo, if you had $100 billion, what would you be doing right now?
I'd be doing this with a nicer porta-john. I'd get some paint. I'd paint this porta-john right here. I'd do it red, white, and blue. Um, in fact, that's gonna be my shameless plug for this week. I'm gonna paint my porta-john red, white, and blue. I mean, I'm gonna try to raise $20 for paint.
Paint.
$20.
20
If I get
bucks.
myself
Well,
on
you mentioned
$20
the
for my
shameless
painted
plug,
blue.
so I'm gonna put my video off for a second because I gotta go take care of something. I want you to now give your shameless plug. He has a series of books, y'all, that we're gonna shamelessly plug for at least 3 minutes now. So can Yabo talk for 3 minutes
3 minutes.
about his shameful plug? And
I don't think I can be interesting for 3 minutes. I'm boring as crap. So since he just left, yeah, there's Trail Tales is the name of the book series, and they're for free. If you want to learn how to make your own encrypted radio networks and whatnot, it's called it's yavos.org / giveaway, and it's free. Take it, serious. And you can download a book on how to make your own mesh-tastic LoRa devices and whatnot. And free encrypted stuff because basically if you're already using cell phones and whatnot, when you communicate with the tower, why would you want the government to be able to listen in via the tower onto your communications? And if you think that your encrypted stuff is really super encrypted because it's going over, if they control the tower, I assure you they can pop your encryption and listen in on your conversation. So the way to prevent all that is don't use their towers. Simple as that. So you build these little, they look like Blackberries from the early 2000s. You build a little mesh tasking device. Looks like an old Blackberry. Cost you, a couple of bucks for the hardware. And then now, if you have two of these things, you can text each other miles and miles apart, super encrypted, and unlike a walkie-talkie, where it's actually encrypted, because you can't really encrypt the walkie-talkie. And even when you think you can encrypt those things, like when the cops say they can encrypt those things, it's pseudo encrypted. It's not great. I mean, if I'm motivated and dedicated, I could probably still crack that stuff. But that would be it would be technically possible. It'd be legally wrong to do, but if you really wanted to, or if the government wanted to, they could. So don't trust radios. And making these old BlackBerry devices, basically, you make a mesh and you control your own towers and stuff. And it's a fun project you could do with your kids. So you can make actual shit hits the fan, actual encrypted, long range texting communications, send Google Maps locations back and forth just like you can with ATAC and all those super Navy SEAL super squirrel, secret squirrel kind of stuff. And it's all free. So it's called yavos.org/giveaway. There
Hmm.
you go. It's
That's
free.
a shameful plug.
So,
Yavo, do you know
yeah.
the creator of Laura, or was it Meshtastic? Who's the creator?
So the guy who invented Meshtastic, um, well, it's a team of individuals, but the guy who created Meshtastic, he went ahead and called me up, and we talked about the first book that I ever wrote about it. Because if you jump on Amazon, you just type in Meshtastic. I'm one of like two guys in the world that's wrote a book on it, and I've written a couple books on it. So by those metrics, I am the most published author in the world on this technology, which is kind of neat. And the whole idea of the technology was if there's no cell phone towers, there's no infrastructure, but you want to be able to communicate miles and miles apart and send your GPS coordinates and all of that kind of stuff, and you want to be able to have real time tracking and true encryption with a mesh topology, which is something you can't do with a radio. You now can do it. This is bleeding edge technology, and I made it simple enough that a parent and their kid can put it together in a week for a couple of bucks. It was super simple, picture instructions, and then I'm giving away the book for free because I want more people to like be able to build this super cool bleeding edge technology that is actual full-fledged encryption. The government, you're not using cell towers or anything like that. There's nothing to intercept really. It's actual like advanced technology, but it's something. So I made it simple enough that even your kids can jump on it and
So my
build one in
question
a
is this:
weekend.
let's say someone went to a canyon somewhere where when you go out to state parks in like a canyon, like the Grand Canyon, you might not have great, you might not have a lot of cellular towers out there. So if you went out there, what would be an application of this? Like, would it be you take a couple little drones with you, modify with some equipment, or what would this look like? And how does it reach back to the internet?
So you can do an MQTT communication from these LoRa devices over the internet. So here is the use case. Here is the implementation. Let's pretend you have one party of people, and then you have another part of people, and they're on the other side of the Grand Canyon, right? One or both of these groups of people can have, let's pretend they have a drone. They take their little BlackBerry device that they each have, and they can normally communicate. But because they're in a tower or they're in a canyon, you can't talk very far. These little devices are so light and they use so little power, you could throw one in a bush up high and use that as a relay point between the two to pass messages between the two parties. You could duct tape one onto a drone, zip tie it onto a drone, send it up, and then use that as a relay between the two parties. And if any of these parties in the group talking between, point A, party B, the drone doesn't matter. If you have, another station that has connection to a cell phone or to the internet, if you wanted to, you don't have to, but if you wanted to have that on an MQTT network over the internet, via, actual cellular connection or something like that, you could have that person talking to anywhere around the world. So you could have like a base station talking over the internet if you wanted to, and that connection is also encrypted. But if you wanted to be 100% no cellular towers, no internet, no nothing, you have the option to do that between everyone involved, and it's a mesh network. Meaning, if there's any node in the topology can see the other side, I can talk to Gary. I may not necessarily be able to talk to Fred, but I can talk to Gary. Don't worry. John over here will be able to pass the message along to make sure everyone can communicate over that mountain or over that hill. And it's all line of sight communication. I mean, you could shoot this for miles and miles, uh, which is why putting one on a drone and having it fly really high, a couple hundred feet in the air. Now you can cover 20 miles, which you could never do that with a radio.
Got it. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think the number one use case for the average person that's going camping to a remote location like a Grand Canyon, a state park, would be to have internet. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I get it with two parties that are hiking together, one's on one end and so forth. I get it, them communicating is a priority. But if you had the internet, anybody could communicate with anyone outside. So it's like, for example, someone got lost, they could still communicate to someone back home that can,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. So
Yeah, if you had, let's say you had three devices, you had one in everybody's pocket, one party A, another party B, and then you have one that you like left in the car. The one that's connected in the car that has access to like a cellular network could have an MQQ communication, and that could be talking to somebody in another state who's just monitoring, make sure everyone's safe. You
yeah.
can you that way somebody down in the canyon, if they have an issue, they go, "Hey, my leg's broke. Here's my GPS coordinate." They could send that, and then everyone, to including first responders or everyone out of state, they would all get the message via bouncing the communication from party A, party B, back to the car, and the car talks over the cellular connection back to the person, someone in a relay station in another state, and that could be at a first responder going, "Oh, hey, dispatch a cellular or dispatch a helicopter because this person just said that they're in trouble, and they're here's their GPS, their Google Maps pin drop." So it's super precise. You could totally do that.
So that's been the shameless plug by Yavo. We'll have some links that Yavo will give me in the description below. But
Yeah, yavo.org/giveaway. It's free. Take it.
before we go any further, I do want to point out that we are getting close. We're within I think 50 something days from the JK Podcast 1 year anniversary. So we've been doing this shit and talking shit. Let me put this in here since 2024. And right here, I see that the date we got 12 subscribers. So thank you all 12 subscribers. I know it's probably me, Yavo, Michelle, Yavo's mom. There's at least four, and Jen. There's 12 subscribers. For a few
Don't
seven
forget the six
subscribers out
dummy
there,
accounts that the FBI made.
and the FBI. So for you six subscribers out there, we thank you. We've done 15 videos so far in our
Yeah.
podcast, and it's been something else. But on April 29th, which is the day before Pablo's birthday, we will reach our 1 year anniversary. So anybody that has any ideas of what we should do for that 1 year special, comment below. We're looking forward to seeing what you got, what crazy ideas the internet has for us, and we'll see how we can accommodate you. So just as an early warning, we got 50 something days from our 1 year anniversary. What do you think about that, Yava? You
Yeah.
had that porta john in your backyard for over a year.
Yeah, my wife, she'll stop being angry about it one day. It's not today, but it'll happen one day. Um, yeah, it's been like a year. That's insane.
I
So
know,
thank you all
man.
12 people.
You know what I like to do is I like to do a giveaway actually. Yavo, if I remember hearing you correctly, when we had your mom on the last episode, you said something that your mom was like a beauty pageant contestant. Did I hear that right?
I hope not.
No, no, or she was like Miss whatever state, Miss, I don't know. It was some kind of like a beauty pageant or some kind of thing where she used to do. So what was that? Give me clarification.
No way. I ain't helping you out with this. You're on your own.
So what I'm
You're 100%
proposing
on your
here
own.
is you said that she still has posters of herself. If we could get a poster printed and then have it signed by her, we could do a giveaway of Yavo's mom, his hot mom, giveaway,
That's
signed
gonna be the
poster
weirdest
for our 1 year
thing in your living
anniversary. So
room.
that's what I'm gonna challenge Yavo to get for us for a prize. So
Hell no. Hell
so
no.
recently, Yavo got a theme song. So about a year ago, I started calling every now and then when I would call Yava, I would just start off with Yavalicious. And so I wrote some songs. I wrote a song for him and I sent his
This is
wife
the part where I give you your 2 minute warning. I'm gonna have to go in 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right, well, look, we're gonna wrap up then because he's gotta go. You really gotta go?
I actually have I have two house showings. Then
All
they end
right.
at 2.
Well, he's
I have
got
to
to
drive there.
go.
It's got to be
But
a studio
what we're
in
going to
30
do
minutes.
next time is we're gonna get a guest on. It's been a while since we've had a recurring guest, so we're going to try this new guy out this week. We're going to test him out with the podcast, and hopefully we got some good energy, good interactions. What's his name, y'all know?
His name's Pal.
Pal, like Pal.
Powell.
Oh, Powell. Powell. Okay. Well, we're going to
Yeah,
check out
Pal.
Powell, see what kind of energy he brings to the show. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, will get me all the links and I'll make sure in the description below. But we're going to be out. So JK Podcast out.
All right.